Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focused on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Hey. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Yeah. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Yeah. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Headlines, we are going to be answering a very important question. And this question was raised by former President George Weah. The question is President Boakai the change he promised? President Weah does not believe he is. What do you think? And should even President Weah be talking this? Somebody, when you were saying this, somebody say, see who talking. But that's why I called this gentleman here tonight. I have with me to discuss this Mr. Gabriel M. Carter. He's the host of FOL Marketplace, where we talk business, finance, economics, and everything in between. Welcome, Mr. Carter.
Dennis, good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me also welcome our man from the nation's capital. If we want anything political, American, we call him Mr. Jimmy Eastman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Don. It's nice being here to talk about this. Let's make a proper assessment of the change, if there is any.
Let me also welcome Mr. William Gibson. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Jar. Glad to be here.
And we have Dr. Clarence Pearson. Dr. Pearson, I think he supported Weah, supported Cummings. I don't know where he is now. Mr. Pearson, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure being on this platform with all my esteemed panelists. And I want to say hi to all the viewers out there.
Thank you. We join you to say hi. And also Johnny also is the political bulldog, the host of Our Politics, Mr. Anthony Sear. He's going to be joining us. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. You heard the song from Mount Nimba to the Atlantic Ocean, from Cape Mount to Cape Palmas, from Boakai Hills to Boakai. It's focused on Liberia Monday through Sundays. Welcome, welcome. If you have not done so already, please share the show. Let's discuss if President Boakai the change he promised. Ex-President George Weah does not believe so. It was today that President Weah was on radio in Monrovia via phone from the United States, and he had a critique of the Boakai government. And more other things he said, you want a change. And I'm not going to speak about my Weah tone now. He said, you want a change? Boakai was not a change. Those who left the country and now claim to return for change are not sincere. They are here because their situations abroad were not prosperous. Okay, it looks like he's finding a way to come back. But let me get your initial reaction to this thing. Is President Boakai the change he promised? President Weah does not believe so. Jimmy, let me start with you. What's your initial reaction to the topic and President Weah's assertions?
Well, it's kind of ironic because if the former president says that Boakai is not to change, he's also condemning himself in a way because so you are telling us that it's the same way it was before, and if it's bad now, that means it was bad before. So in other words, that the people were not honest, or the people were not loyal to the country. Those who, he said, but the ones you have replaced, he's brought to replace the other people are the same. That means in your administration, the people were not also honest to the people. They were not loyal to the country. I don't know if I would have maintained that maybe though he's being very using some political expediency by telling the people this man will not do anything different. I thought he would have said that things are getting worse, but instead he's saying they're doing the same thing, the status quo as usual. So I found it kind of strange that he would trend on that kind of stance, that there's no change.
Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Pearson.
Well, any level-headed person would say, thanks for having me, Dennis, but any level-headed person would say that it is too early to gauge whether Boakai has failed or not, President Boakai. But looking at the past, now going to 6 months, almost 6 months going into his presidency, I think based on the conversation we are having tonight, I think he has failed to deliver to the large extent on grounds that we have had a lot of false starts, and that false start is amplified by reliance on prior experience that he brings a lot to the table. Along with those who supported him, they made a lot of commitments to the public, and because of those commitments that he made, expectations were high, and so the false start playing against that prior experience is hurting them. And then early excuses, too many early excuses, Dennis. And then what I call poor reliance. When you hear the Boakai supporters and even his ministers, the first thing they will tell you is that but Joe, we did this too, and so if they did this, then we too, then we why can't we do it? So then it emboldens Judge, we have to say, but then if you only came to do what I did, and you say what I did was wrong, then I could have done better in my second term because I was on track to do better than what I was already doing. So I think that's where we are, and that's where the conversation is right now. If they don't course correct, I think they are headed for an early downside in public opinion.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, thank you again for the opportunity. I think, based off of this statement, I would say it's very laughable, if I can say that, for former President Weah to have come out and made such a statement. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. You're being a hypocrite in the same breath, saying that these are the things that you all said y'all wanted to change, y'all wanted X, Y, and Z. But President Weah and his alliance were the very same people that ran on a mantra of hope for change, or change for hope. So what hope did you bring to the Liberian people when they entrusted you with the gavel of leadership for the 6 years? You didn't do anything differently. You stuck to the status quo. You stuck to what the old guard was always doing, which is enriching themselves, bringing folks, friends. Yes, you might not have brought your relatives into government, but you brought your friends around you who became your yes men. They were not holding you accountable for the falls and the laps that took place within your administration. Because if you were leading in the proper direction, you would have been reelected for a second term. So he failed in a lot of ways of trying to show that he was somebody who had clean hands. For somebody who wanted to clench state power for so long, that stood in the opposition, that should have been doing a whole lot of things differently. He failed to deliver on that. So you can't stand here as a hypocrite and try to go ahead and say that President Boakai is not doing what he's supposed to do. Because at the end of the day, you didn't either. So both of them are hypocritical in a sense, if you're looking at it in that way. So I think you can't, throw stones from a glass house.
Gabriel, is President Weah a hypocrite here?
Dennis, thank you for having me. I think he is a hypocrite in a way. I think pretty much based on what everybody said. His record, cannot be counted. We've seen what he did within the last 6 years. But that does not take away from what he is saying. What he is saying is truth, right? In terms of the change that, Liberian people thought they were voting for. From the last, I think, almost 6 months that we've seen this presidency, it's not what we expected. This is not what we expected. This is not what they expected. 100 days plans, no deliverable so far. We were looking for some quick wins, and I think they attempted to do some of that by making trips to the U.S., going to Korea, yellow machines, $22 million road funds. All of those were in an attempt to have some quick wins that may have that they could have capitalized on in terms of building on that and looking at the long term. But all of those attempts were all failure. The trips to the U.S. they were promised. They went to Korea, the same thing. They were promised capital, but no intangible commitment, no tangible commitment were made to them. So in as much that I don't think we should be the person picking up the mic to call out the failure that is happening right now. I also do believe that he is right. But if you look at his record as well, it's like a failed student in a class laughing at another student who is failing in the class to make fun out of them. So that's the hypocrisy that we're looking at right now. Yeah.
William, if we say this is hypocrisy, what is driving Weah? Why is he saying this? What is prompting this intervention or this criticism?
I mean, it's all because of the political interest at play, right? When you look at it, I think they just had the militant day, the CDC. So you've seen all of the folks who are part of the alliance, they've disappeared. They've gone back to their respective bases. So he's trying to reawake his base, right? Which is the youth population. And by saying some of these things, using certain rhetorics to say, you all wanted change, you wanted somebody that wasn't going to be business as usual. Well, they fooled you all. So he's trying to re-aliven or reawaken his base by using some of these political jargons and rhetorics to make sense of his own shortcomings and the shortcomings of this administration by saying, I'm better than them. And it's time that CDC gets back and try to get back to the table and do something differently. We need to unite to be stronger for 2029 because he wants to probably, amass more wealth and go back to, being in politics because he sees being on the sideline is no longer fun. His party is really behind him, telling him to, speak up. So that's what he's trying to do, satisfy his political base.
Clarence, let me come to you. What did Boakai promise and what actually needed change? Because I know Weah is looking at something. So when you say, well, you don't represent the change, what did Boakai promise and what were President Weah's expectations? What needed to change from Weah to Boakai?
That's a very good question. So if we look back, and I can see where Gibson coming from. It's politics, right? So anyone can amplify opposition politics to project whatever they want the public to buy into. and then in that they get some leverage against the opponent. So 100% not everything that they try to trumpet will be correct. All right. So looking at some of the things that he promised. After the Boakai promised everything, we are fell on. And that goes from salary harmonization. He said it was a bad thing, which of course was done to help stabilize the economy coming out of a situation where economy was under shock from oil mill and other international patterns pulling out at the time of Ellen Johnson's leaving office and going from the Ebola after effect on the country. And so there were many factors that were playing into why we needed the international community needed the government to stabilize the wage bill, salaries across government. So harmonization was condemned, and we yet to see him revoice that decision. We also saw that electricity was a problem for Liberia, and they also condemned it. They said Liberia was in darkness, and only to find that Joseph Boakai took over office, and the same problem persists. Even worse, we have fire disaster across the country that is blamed on electricity that is not evenly distributed across the country. We also have the issue about the bread and butter issue of the Liberian people. Prices were going up. This, according to them, every price was not stable. In fact, they claimed that things were too hard for Liberian people. Life was difficult for them. And so they said when it comes to power, he would bring rice price down, gasoline price will come down, cost of living will come down. Instead, we see it going up. And we knew at the time that, like I said from the beginning, that political conversation is bordered around people serving their own interests. Some of these things were unrealistic criticism, but they wanted to get in power. You also saw them condemn the issue about the budget not being $1 billion and above. All right, that was also a big criticism where Boakai said when he took over office, his guys were saying that they would take the budget to $1 billion. And that hasn't happened yet. And last, before I gave you the map of Dennis, we also heard before they took over office that when it comes to corruption, they were nip corruption in the bud because it was the underlying factor of why Liberia was being what it is. But now we see under Joseph Boakai, all right, from the beginning, from the inception of his inauguration down to before his inauguration, even coming down to his public work minister, going down to his rescue senators, coming down to his office of the ministers and things, and then the bus issue is a problem. All right, with yellow machine is a problem, operating under secrecy. Nobody knows what's going on in the country until you say wait until you get it because you need it desperately. You don't have to ask where I got it from. When the fundamental parental guidance our parents gave us in the back was don't receive gifts from someone who have not explained to you what the gifts is about. And then those things fuel corruption. So I think these things embolden George Weah. I did not support George Weah first ballot. I supported Alex Cummings. All right. And then when I went back to pick between the best candidate that was on the table, I think Boakai did not make a good candidate for me for one good reason. There's nothing to show. Okay, Boakai myself are from the same district number 6. I got more things to show in district number 6 than Boakai has to show. As from someone who worked in government for 40 years and serving government as vice president for 12 years, Dennis, if you went in district 6 and you ask about me and you see my productivity in district 6 is more than what Boakai has to show. And I mean, it's reality. So I mean, so it emboldened George Weah. He's not the one should be saying about his politics. You play on someone else's failure.
Thank you. But just to be clear, you mentioned the budget. I mean, that budget was drafted by CDC, so you don't expect it to go to $1 billion.
Then it's interjection.
They revised it.
Yeah, then it's interjection. That budget was put on hold for over 3 months. And Boakai's instruction was to see how they can readjust the budget to meet their own.
I mean, you can't do much with it. It's still too early. $1
billion, and then find the innovation and the technical know-how how to raise the revenue to get that $1 billion.
Yeah, but Jimmy, let me come to you there. Jimmy, is it about the messenger, or is what we are saying is he correct? Except that he shouldn't be the one saying it. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I think he's simply wants to first point out Boakai's faults and failures early in the game to embolden his supporters, the CDC, so that they will have something to grind. You notice that he came up with these statements during the CDC comeback rally. And so he wanted to rouse his base a little bit. That's why he started saying all these things. Some of the things he accused Boakai of removing tenured officials, harassing CDC members. Again, it's intended directly to his base to let him know that he is advocating for their benefit. He alluded to these people coming back from the U.S. because they failed. Again, you know what's happening with the LBS director, Eugene Fangon, and him. He went to the U.S. after being dismissed, and now he's back. And they say he's there. He was alluding that these people are not sincere. So you can see he's directly firing up his base for a comeback in 2029, or at least to bolster up his party. It's easy to find fault with this administration because of the missteps they've made. Some of the guys on the panel you have already pointed out there have been several missteps. He also accused him of nepotism and by trying to remove people and appoint his family members. Well, this comes from a guy who was also accused of soliciting affairs, from women for appointments. So the messenger is one thing, but I think it is enough to stir his base for the politics to come.
Gabriel, President Weah, former President Weah has a history of, not saying things directly. Is President Weah being petty here? Because he has people in mind. He doesn't want to call their name, just like during his sermons.
No, Dennis, I don't. In as much that I don't think Weah should be the messenger, but forget Weah being a messenger. What if that message was coming from anybody else? Would you have given credibility to the message besides the person delivering the message? And I think what Weah is doing is not so much about, bolstering his base. I think it's his political strategies. You left the presidency, but you want to make sure that you continue to be a talking point. Continue every now and then you will see this version of him come out. He will make comments and people will carry it in the news. That's trying to stay relevant throughout the 6 years, and that will, keep him in a race technically until 2029. But I think if we take away the individual delivering the message and look at the message, it will carry bigger weight, right? Everything that he's saying, there is no, besides him saying that, there is facts. He is saying facts. This administration took over. We expected a lot. Obviously, the winning was actually, you can say it was a split decision, because it was almost divided, right? So not it wasn't a landslide. So some people still wanted Mr. Weah in the presidency. But if you look at what happened so far during the last 5 months, I think we keep saying the same thing here. As I said, he wanted some quick wins. When you come in, you want to, have some quick wins here and there to build momentum. While people are salivating on that, then you can look at the long-term trajectory. But all of that has failed. I think Mr. Pearson talked about the rice, the price of rice going up, to the point they had to invite rice importers into a meeting, which I thought was a laughable strategy. There's gas prices and all of these trips that they have taken, they forget to know that we are in an economic environment where everything is stagnant globally. Everybody is fending for themselves. You just got elected. Instead of you looking domestically, looking within to look at way to boost your revenue, you're taking trips, trying to, petition to other countries to for aid, for getting to know where we are globally. The global economy is stagnant. The US, where we're in right now, everything is stagnant. We have stagnation. We have high inflation as well, right? So he came here without getting anything. He tried South Korea. That was just commitments. So I think what Weah is saying is true, but I think in addition to what Weah is saying, there's a strategy behind that. You continue to inject yourself every now and then to stay relevant until 2029 and to give yourself that credibility. So it comes 2029, if any of the opposition want to say, oh, what was happening in the country, you weren't talking about that. He has evidence to say that, hey, when the government took over in the first 6 months, they weren't doing so well. Guess who spoke about it? Few months from now, maybe a year from now, you'll hear him continue to make these comments again. So it's a strategy within itself, in addition to pointing out the obvious that we're all seeing here. Yeah.
Bill, is it just too early to really start engaging or gauging the Boakai presidency has either been changed or not changed? Is it just too early? 6 months? That's too short, in my opinion.
No, in my opinion, I think it's not too early, right, to start to do observations, to speak on things when you're asked about.
But not a verdict, just observation.
Yeah, just an observation to say, where the line that they're treading is not in the best interest, or is not the smartest move. I think that's what political pundits do. That's what politics is about, right? You might not have all of the answers or have, quote unquote, everything properly done, but political pundits are supposed to give their views. Political, what do you call it, leaders, when you're asked about these things, you give your views. So as I stated on the last edition of the show, I said that a lot of these political leaders, the opposition has become alarmingly quiet. You can't say you're an opposition leader if you're not speaking up on things, whether it's 6 months, a year from now. You have to start to talk about it. When you raise these concerns, not only are you raising it within the media, but you need to raise it with your legislatures who ran on your political ticket. Take it to the doorsteps and say, hey, aside from me being a political leader and talking on the radio about this for the national public to hear about it, I need to also talk about it in-house. So if President Weah wants to take it a step further, he needs to talk about it with the people who were elected on his ticket and say, this is what I'm seeing. So it is not too soon to speak. You can speak at any point, but it has to be, on every side of the coin, with the public, and also speaking about it with your base, with the people who are in the legislature, who are doing a whole lot more damage than good at this very moment.
And Jimmy, Bill brought up a very good point. It looks like the criticism now, especially from the CDC, I mean, it's just insane. It's like people, and that's my language, it's like people are only criticizing without even putting forth anything, without even attacking the real problem. It's just that simply saying, hey, you said you were going to do it better than I did. But see, isn't it just salivating what's coming out of, from CDC?
You would think that people vote on issues in Liberia. And that, I think somebody on one of your programs pointed out clearly that Liberians don't necessarily vote on issues. They vote on emotional things. If they like you, you have to be from a certain area. All those things are what are more important to Liberians than the issues. Because if it was the issues themselves that were important, then we wouldn't have the repeat of the same recycled politicians continually coming up, because we know what those people have been doing before. We know their past, we know the capability, but we keep re-electing them. So we see that it's not about the issues. So Mr. Weah is playing the game. Let's talk about these things, but in reality, at the end of the day, it's not going to be about these things, because none of us going to bring any change. Boakai was not the change he said he was going to be. He just was talking. So it's time for us to come back. I think that is just to recycle the cycle we're in, where we keep bringing back the same type of people, and the country itself is not moving very far.
And Clarence, is it a mission from Weah that indeed he didn't do well and things needed to change for the better? Is this what he's admitting?
Yes, Dennis, I think so. Let me tell you why, right? Let me elevate the conversation a little bit more. Look, listen, there's something, even you and myself, Dennis, if you employ someone, like Liberian people have employed President Boakai, you'll notice that one of the things in the employment process is your probation. And your probation period is limited time to see your productivity, not necessarily the outcome of your work in an instance, but to see if you have the competency that is required for the job as you propose in your CV or in your resume. So say, for instance, if I employ you as a data analyst and I give you a 3-month probational period, and I see you don't even know how to put 1 and 2 together to make sense of it, I see you're not even able to boot your own computer, I see you're not able to even run a spreadsheet, I see you're not able to even do any data analytics at all. Obviously, in the next 3 months, I'll have you fired and replaced. I mean, it's common sense. And now we're in a political environment. George Weah, like he rightly said, have waited 6 months, and he's emboldened by in criminal justice. Dennis, they say for a criminal to take advantage of you, they first need enticement, opportunity, and the means. All right, Boakai gave President Weah the enticement by all of his missteps in the first probational period. He also gave President Weah the opportunity to critique him. All right, and then last, President Weah got a means. He got one of the formidable opposition party in the country. Take it or leave it. George Weah was defeated by by a very minimum vote. And if we were to do a census right now, probably that minimum does not even exist anymore. So he's emboldened. There's a guy who said he wasn't going to run in 2029, but because he has seen the enticement, the opportunity, and the means, he feels emboldened. And I will close by saying this on this comment. Look, he may not be the right guy to be trumpeting this message right now, but he's the most popular opposition person in the country. I would have wished that my own candidate, Alexander Cummings, would be out there himself. I've tried to prompt him a little bit to get out there, but he's also think it's too early to be out there. But I think if Alexander Cummings could seize this opportunity, it shouldn't be a 2-horse race in the political sphere right now in Liberia. There's an opportunity all presidential hopeful should be jumping on. And I close by saying, listen, Boakai has failed tremendously in his probation period. I think Boakai lacks the leadership that we thought he had. And I say we thought, I'm looking at the Liberian people in general. I did not see it in him. I didn't see it in him for the 40 plus years. I didn't see it in him for the 12 years he served as vice president. And I don't hope to see it in him. I will repeat, Dennis, I think Grisby is doing a very good job at the executive mansion right now that is keeping this country afloat. President President Boakai just left from Ghana, promising to expand a dormitory of the maritime regional maritime university. Ghana's budget last year, Dennis, was $13 billion. $19 billion last year, 2023. Ghana budget, $19 billion. Liberia is the 8th poorest country in the world. In West Africa, Liberia is the poorest country in the world, 2nd poorest country in the entire West Africa. What are we talking about? How will you be committing Liberia to build dormitory in Ghana when not even university students don't even have armchairs to write their exams in? Man, he doesn't know how to lead. I'm not sure who is advising him, and the advisors he put around him, they are not capable. They don't have the requisite skill set to do the job, and they're advising him. And we see that from the tenure stuff, we see that to the appointment stuff, and we see that to the yellow machines, and we see that to the buses, and we see it with the asset recovery team. And now we see that right now in NOCA, there's a fight in NOCA right now between the board of directors and the managing directors, the officer in charge, over funding. So I mean, there's no leadership, there's no direction, there's no vision, and I did not expect it. And so I think, look, listen, if George Weah is to get on a ballot with Joe Boakai today, he will win the election.
Thank you. Thankfully, there will be no election today. So let's run through a couple of things, right? Because in faces that delta, the change, right? So what changed from, even though realistically it may be a little too early to gauge this, but let's look at a few things and see whether there is a change. Gabriel said we should forget Weah, who said it, because he's the bad messenger, right? But let's run through quickly the budget. Has anything changed? The running of the government, has anything changed? The fight against corruption, has anything changed? public relations, how we are being aware of what's going on, transparency, anything change. Our response to natural disasters like flood, like fire, burglaries, and even though that's natural, and also the economy. Is it too early or has anything changed? You can pick any one of those, Gabriel, and give me what the change has been from Weah to Boakai, or is it too soon?
Dennis, I think I like to be fair. Um, in as much that I think 6 months is not quite a bit of a time to uh, really do a good assessment. But I think this is true in education as well. Your early foundation, how you start, determines how well you do throughout the rest of your years in school. So if you had a good foundational education, you would do well throughout college, grad school, and everything. And I am not the one saying this. Every one of you here have seen the start of this administration. It started in chaos and it's continuing to go in chaos, right? That's besides the point. That's on the leadership side. On the leadership side. That I don't want to talk about. Everybody can see that. But I think what we are is alluding to here, he's talking about here in a vague overall standpoint, is just basically the state of the economy. Someone said it here earlier. When this administration came in, every mistake they will make, they will, compare themselves to Weah. Weah did it, so we can do it as well. Well, if you are the best student in the class, you're not compare yourself to the person in the class who is failing. You want to be the top notch. You want to be the change. You want to be the person who the teacher can call upon to answer tough questions, right? This is how everyone saw this administration, right? Some of the things that we are is talking about in a vague term, I wish he had the acumen to really break them down, or somebody in the opposition had the acumen to really come, I think, as Gibson talked about, to really bring this thing to the forefront, uh, the state of the economy right now. Nothing has changed from the last 6 months up to where we are. We look at the budget. We talked about the budget. They, you know, made a big deal about growing the budget to $1 billion. Here's the budget. It's still in secrecy. They've hid it because there was I think there was a shortfall of 46 million. They went and revised it. It has yet to come out, right? People are questioning when is the budget going to come out. It has yet to come out. They've complained about light. I think Mr. Pearson talked about that. They complained about light when Weah was in power, when the former Minister of Finance said, you know, they were supplying light to Ivory Coast. That's why we weren't getting light. Well, they claimed that they were going to come and change that. When they came into power, we saw few attempts in, Mr. Conan, he made a lot of posts about trying to fix the last issue, the light problem in Liberia. That fizzled out in a matter of weeks, too few weeks, right? Again, I'll go back to the things that I was talking about. The price of rice in the country, that is our staple food. You bring rice importers, people who are business people, who idea fundamentally is to make a profit. You come and put them in a room and trying to create an uptake to say that you want to reduce the price of rice. Like I think Mr. Pearson talked about it. From an advisor standpoint, economic advisor standpoint, that was the biggest failure. So without trying to be long-winded, everything that Weah is talking about in a collective sense, if you want to break them down piece by piece, from the economy to the leadership to everything that they promised within the first 100 days, up to 6 months, even if you can't deliver the 6 months, in office, you go into office, you want to have some quick wins, like do something people will notice you and say, okay, yeah, this guy is, none of that is happening, right? Everything is
Gabriel,
stagnant right now.
Gabriel, those things that you have listed, are there any improvement from Weah? Are they still the same, or we're moving backwards?
It's flat based. Hasn't been a change. I won't say it is worse. I won't say there has been any improvement. It is just as they were when they took over. There's no change. Like, I don't have to be the one saying this. You have family in Liberia, call them, talk to them. They will tell you all of these things. I shouldn't be the one. You guys shouldn't be the one hearing it from me. Talk to people in Liberia. That's how you do market survey and find out the pulse of your economy. I'll leave it on that.
Bill, let's look at those things that are named: budget, government, fight against corruption, public relations, disaster management, everything else. What do we see? Have there been a change? Same old from Weah, improvement, or what do you see?
Right now, looking at everything, I can honestly say the only thing that's changed is diehard partisans are no longer in government. It's a return to the quote unquote technocrats of Ellen, administration. The folks who know how to pull all the levers to make things work, but it's still no improvement. So I can say the faces have changed. The people who are quote unquote experts have returned to being in, these ministries and leading, but corruption is still rampant. You have people still employing their relatives, their friends, you name it. They're putting these people in key positions to benefit. You still have infrastructure. When it comes to the health infrastructure of the country, it's still dilapidated. You look at the roads, talking about no car will get stuck in the mud. How can you make such a statement when you have not even fully assessed the true state of the roads in the country, right? In the interior, all those places. How can you make such a statement? You look at public relations, things are still hidden. Yes, you have a press secretary that has a press conference every Friday. But even to answer a simple question, you will go ahead and do this whole spin, the political spin you will put on things because you don't want to tell the public the truth about what's really happening, and pulling that curtain and being a true connector for the public to be connected to what's happening in the executive. Nobody knows what's going on. You still have people lining up at the airport to send off a president who's supposed to be going on a mission to bring things back. You still have so many ills that have been practiced time and time again, and we're approaching 177 years. And these are still things that are being practiced. So what change or what business as usual has been thrown out? Nothing has been thrown out. I think we've seen new faces, old faces that have come back, but these practices have not changed. There is no true change that's taken place within 6 months. And dare I say, I don't think it will happen within a year, because we don't have anybody that is truly focused on loving Liberia, thinking Liberia, building Liberia. Everybody that runs on a lot of these mantras and have these mottos, they're not living up to it. The people who they put in these positions don't have the farsightedness to even think about what Liberia needs, not right now, but 12, 20 years from now. What does Liberia need? Nobody is thinking with that far-sighted mindset, and it's continuing to show in every single thing that they do. You can't take old buses from Ghana that have been parked and bring it into a country that is already suffering from transportation issues. And then when the bus breaks down, what is going to be done? Putting a Band-Aid over a wound that has already been opened multiple times. There's not enough solutions. As I said before, there's so many intellectual individuals in that country, in the government, true technocrats, whatever they want to call themselves, but there is no true solutions.
And Bill, why is that? If the technocrats are back and things are still the same, what's responsible?
Everybody's sticking to the old guard. Nobody wants to go ahead and change and say something different from, they want to be yes men. You have somebody who ran as a political leader of a party, the Unity Party, and said, I've been in government for 40 plus years. I know what needs to be done. If you knew what needed to be done on day one, when you were elected, you would have had your cabinet in place before your inauguration. You would have had certain things put in place. You would have said, you know what, I want to reduce the size of government. This is what's needed. But we see all of these boards that are popping up all around that we never heard about before. Rural renewable energy resources, what all these different boards that are coming out of the blue. Yes, they exist on paper, but what is the true significance of some of these boards being commissioned if no work is being done? Why are they being paid? Why are we not calling it experts? Why are we not tapping into the wealth of knowledge that Liberians have gone abroad to receive and say, you know what, we want to change, we want to do something different. Let's call on these individuals. Let's knock on their doors. Yes, you won't want to come back and work for such a pay cut, right? But come on as a consultant. Let's see what we can do together to make sure that we're empowering the folks in these ministries to do the right things. That's what you could have done. but nobody's having that far-sighted mindset.
Jimmy, anything changed so far? Still the same, or we
You know, you will see changes when you have, as Gibson was saying, real experts in place. Because when experts are in place, they don't just start with the superficial. They go to the integral, the basic elements, and start building on a foundation and carrying it up before they bring about change. So I noticed that the new mayor, I see him doing some things that are fundamentally different. He's doing a more comprehensive approach to it. I see there's a little bit change in water and sewer. I can see this is where I see true expertise going. But in a lot of places is much of the same. I would have expected Mr. Boakai to tell the legislature he's holding back on all those other monies they're supposed to get until he can get LU back open, until he can get some medicine back in the hospital. He needs, if he was going to be an agent of change, he wouldn't be doing things the same old budget, the same old way it was before. Yes, they couldn't change the revenue generation in 4 or 5 months, but guess what? You can declare an emergency and use the funds to address critical issues in the country. That is how you become a change agent. So if you're not doing any of these, if you're simply carrying out the same old things, that's just business as usual. And as Weah say, it's even worse than business as usual because things are getting worse. So no, the change you have to make, it will require some drastic action, some deep digging into what the solutions are. And so what, for his benefit, somebody told me that he will make changes in positions. He would change them out. Right now, it's been to appease those who supported him. But I've been told some lullaby stories before. According to them, he will be making changes later on in his administration. But for now, very little.
So Jimmy, you talk about changes. You said there's change in places like the city, Monrovia City Corporation. You talk about water and sewer. What I didn't hear from you is LBS. What's going on there?
Let me tell you about LBS. If you see LBS, they did the right thing by calling back those veterans, Kwame and Clement, all those Dobakaran, all those veterans that were there. They called them back and they made them board members. So there's a lot of input over there.
And that's what I'm about to tell you. Board member, but do you know what the input is, or you are assuming?
I'm assuming that they know how things are supposed to run, so they will give direction, they will give advice,
and they will be given the space.
Yes, I would believe that they are, because first of all, if it's something you haven't done before, because I'm seeing some rehabilitation going on over there, and it's something you haven't done before, you really don't know how to proceed. So those minds that come together, they can at least tell you, well, you can start with this, you start with that, you bring that, and we can see some renovation going on. We can see some resuscitation of the system. Now they're becoming more active. You can see some broadcasts. They claim they're going to be all around the country. We see those things, and that's what I think is a reflection that those old veterans are back and guiding the process to rehabilitate LBS. But there is a political thing going on there, and I think it's going to be interesting in the coming days.
And that political thing, is it new? Is it a change for the better? Is it backwards? Is it forward? Or still the same?
Yeah, it is. It would be a power struggle over there. We can quite clearly see it. Maybe that would be one of the battlefronts between CDC and the UP, but it's because we already seen that some resistance. We've seen that it denied Weah entrance to the VIP at the airport. We've seen CCC denied broadcasting their militant jingle on the air, whatever it was or not. We can see the ongoing battle between these two. And I think that is what's going to be characterized in the next 6 years as a battle between, because CDC has not gone away yet. Just like somebody said, they lost by a very thin, razor sharp margin. So it's going to be, the next 6 years going to be a battle between CDC and UP. That's all we're going to see for the next 6 years.
Dr. Pearson, let me hear your take.
Yeah, a lot has changed, right? When I was much younger, Dennis, I was one of those who never could imagine that Liberia would have past presidents alive. You know, like we have Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, we had before, then we had Boakai, and then we had now we have Weah, we have Taylor, right? Joel Taylor. But you know, I never imagined we would have had that. That has changed. But that begins where I think something has changed in the broadcast government. We see a level of disrespect among peers, where for the first time we are hearing that an ex-president has been denied access to a VIP lunch. We've never heard that during Ellen Johnson Sirleaf since she left office. We never heard that from Joe Boakai or President Boakai.
Maybe they didn't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, no.
It didn't happen. We are not just
what also changed is that when Madam Sirleaf left office, she reached out to George Weah. They sat and had conversation, right? And then she provided her one Liberian message of 2 cents to him going forward. George Weah, in good faith, throw in the tower when the votes are still being counted, hailed across West Africa and the world as good tenants of democracy, a good show of democracy. So till today, as we speak, President Boakai has not placed a call to George Weah to say, Mr. Former President, how are you doing? That has changed. When Boakai was called by President Weah after he left office as VP, and even attended to him when he was not well, and made some other visits to him to cater for him. That's what you do for a good and civilized society. What else has changed? Our security sector is in disarray right now, Dennis. That has changed. We saw massive layoff in the EPS. Train people who
we saw the same thing during Weah time. But
you say what has changed? That has changed. We saw massive.
I thought it was the same.
We saw retirement among senior AFL personnel who were also trained by international community. We also see a mass dismissal of Liberians who couldn't afford to put food on the table, and we're having what we call low-level jobs just to keep something on the table to reduce the level of suffering. They all were kicked out. Over 700 plus of them were kicked out of low-hanging position. And then we see a balloon government. The government has changed. The government of Joseph Boakai is now balloon. Take it or leave it, Dennis. It's balloon. We have the longest appointment listing in the country that I've seen so far is under the Joseph Boakai administration. That's the longest. I've seen it they're appointing almost everybody at the local government level that even should not be appointed by the president. All right.
That's always been the same, except that it's now published on Facebook.
Well, that has changed. Another thing that has changed is that we've never had to spend 22 million on dirt road prior to rainy season. That has changed. We have never had another thing that changed. The rest price gone up. The fuel price gone up. The local currency is depreciating as well. What else has changed? We're still having people not taking pay. Like we were accusing George Weah, they're still happening. So a lot of things. Now, what has changed? They're uncountable. I think what has not changed is that we still do not have an opportunity to get good leadership. And that has not changed.
Have things changed for the better or worse, or still the same?
Well, I will go with what Gabriel said, and I think it's still linear, meaning it is yet for him. But another thing in development, economic development plan is that you get projection and you get expected outcome. So in as much as I want to see change, I may not see change now, but if I see projection towards an improvement, I feel comfortable. So take for instance, the World Bank will say Liberia economy right now is operating at point so and so, but in the next 6 years, it may see 2 years, it may be point so and so. So you see a projection, that is moving upward.
So right now, what do you see? Change for the better or worse?
Listen, Dennis, if Liberia continues like this for the next 6 years, the 6 months, you'll see protests in the streets of Monrovia. You'll hear people calling for the removal of Joe Boakai from office. I'm not saying he cannot change it. He can change it, but you know why he cannot change it? There's no leadership, Dennis. You know why you have captain on a football team? Because someone has to give direction. You know why you need coaches for a team? Someone got to give direction. You know why you need captain of military on the war front? Someone got to give direction. Do you know why you need a classroom teacher? Somebody got to give direction. Do you know why you need a class prefect? Someone got to give direction. The government of Liberia right now, everybody feels they know all. So right now, LGA is in complete disarray because there's no leadership there. So they're fighting among themselves. Nokao right now, the board and the managing director, they're fighting among themselves. At the port authority today, using Fagon slap someone, another staff of government there at the port of NPA today. I mean, where are we headed? There's no leadership. President Boakai has to put his foot down and give direction. Like someone earlier said, this is the agenda. And going into this agenda, this is the action plan concerning your department, your division for the agenda. We do on the agenda. All right. His advisor will not go to Ghana and go bring bosses that don't belong to Liberia and try to show up the government. The ambassador Allah should not go in South Africa and go bring a video to show us that yellow machines coming 285 yellow machines. Who maintains them?
Right.
Who drives?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. I'm enjoying this show. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Between the Headlines. If President Boakai the change he promised, former President Weah does not think so, and somebody else says, see Pat calling tea kettle black. If you want to join the conversation, the number is on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Gabriel, the question that Dr. Pearson refused to did not answer is the change for the better or for the worse. Yes, these are things that are happening, but did they happen before? The same complaints that people were kicking people out and bringing in partisans. Are things still the same or they are changing for the better? I don't think you answered that. Did you hear it?
I like to be fair. I think I said this earlier.
You should be fair here. You have no choice.
I got no fish to fry now, right? No, seriously, I like to be fair. I think 6 months isn't quite a bit of a time for the country he inherited. But then again, it's like you overpromise and you underdeliver. I think that's his problem. That's his biggest problem. Not only did he overpromise, they campaigned on the 40 years experience. This man been in the government for 40 years. He know every nooks and cranny of the administration, that when he comes from day one, he should know what, Spark Plus to change to get the car running. That's what they campaign on. That's another campaign. They campaign on experience. We've been in this office before. We spent 12 years there. We're coming with experience. These are some of the things that they promise. I think Mr. Gibson alluded to that, right? There are technocrats supposedly that are in this government. What's good is having technocrats in the government when none of them can deliver any proposal to that. People in the opposition can say that these are signs of what's to come, right? So, in as much that I think that 6 months is not quite a bit of a time to assess, what's supposed to be a 6-year term, but what they promise, the experience, they promise, the education level of the team that they promise. Once the administration took over and they started doing the appointment, I became aware of what to come. Look at the advisors. If you want to look at a leadership Look at the people that are advising him. Look at the advisor. Point at the advisors that are around him right now, and see how that is directing the decision that he's making. Right. So to answer your question without being too long-winded, I said this before. In as much that I want to be lenient towards him, which I think is fair enough, but I think what he has promised is not what he's delivering. And from where he started so far, the way they started, as I said, they started in chaos and they continue to operate in chaos. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. And I keep saying this thing because I want it to happen. I want the opposition, people in the oppositions, to talk about these things, not just in a gross level, but dissect it piece by piece and really be able to articulate the failure and the missteps that are happening in the administration. To answer your question shortly, no, nothing has changed. Liberian people are still, the rice price is still up, even though they talk to the rice importer, right? We have not seen our yellow machine. We're still waiting for that yellow machine. The buses that were promised, the buses are back. 22 million Rose Fund. We have yet to understand or know what happened to that 22 million. It just disappeared. The roads are still the way that they were during Weah time. The only thing that I think that is different, to be fair, is the level of militant chanting that we used to see in Weah's time. We're not seeing this. That's the only difference that I see so far. But in terms of from the economic point, the leadership point, and the trajectory of this country in terms of somebody painting a really, rosary picture in terms of where he wants to take this country, there is no vision at all that is being put out there. So no.
Thank you. If you had the opportunity to speak to either President Boakai or former President Weah, what would that be? I want to go around the room, each of you, for 2 minutes and speak to the guys. Let me start with Bill.
I think for the current president, my main question will be, is this what you envisioned when you ran on the mantra of think Liberia, love Liberia, build Liberia? If you have all these years of experience and you came up with something late at night that you said, I wanted to rush and write it down, what happened to the rest of your thoughts? Did you not write those down? Because if you wrote those down, Liberia will be a bit more differently within these 6 months. You would have had some changes, slow changes, but it would have been some changes. So what was your thought process and where are we now? That would be my main question with him. And then with President Weah, the same thing. You fought for state power for so long, from 2005, and you ended up winning it. What made you forget the people that put you in the seat of power? Why did you become greedy? Why did you think you were untouchable? Did you really care about the people or did you not? That would be my question.
Jimmy.
First of all, I would tell President Weah, the same mistake you made is what you see going on over there. You need competent people on your team to do your work. If you don't put those people there, you will not get the results you wanted. But I think there's something we must establish here. I'm not convinced that people who go to power actually want to build Liberia. I think they want to build their wealth. And as a result, they have been successful because that's what they do. But to build Liberia, a leader who would say, I would be poor, but Liberia will go ahead. I don't think we've seen that leader yet. So what I would tell Boakai, are you going to be that leader? Are you going to be that leader? Say, I will put my own wealth aside. I don't need it, but I will make all sacrifice so that the children of Liberia will benefit. The women that come after me will say, yes, thank God for Boakai. He has helped my children. That is what I would tell him. Is he going to be that kind of person?
Dr. Pearson.
Yeah, if I had the opportunity to speak to President Boakai, I think the question I'm asking is he willing to turn over power to Jeremiah Kuhn and go on retirement? All right, because I feel he doesn't have the energy, he doesn't have the leadership skills. Even if he thought he has something in him, I think his age is not even helping. And so I would just want to be honest with me. Listen, you got this by mistake. You came here accidentally because you were already a rap. in terms of your political career, and these young guys just came and mobilized you to come up, and then you took advantage of the people's sympathy to become president based on what they said that George Weah failed. If I were to speak to George Manuel Weah today, former President Weah, I would ask him, is he willing to go to lift the hands of Alexander Cummings up? All right, because Alexander Cummings provides the best alternative Liberia right now when it comes to getting the practical job done. And you know, we should go beyond this popularity contest and get to people who get the job done. You know, popularity contest is not going to help Liberia. It never helped us. It's never going to help us. So I will ask President Weah, are you willing to maybe go as vice president if you're so anxious for power, and maybe like my friend and brother Jimmy said, if that's just for the money you want to go there for, then go as vice president and just sit there and get your pay, and let Alexander come and go as president to you on the ticket, and then you win this thing, and let Alexander come and get the people job done. You know, give the colors to the people who can do the job. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Please don't tell we had to go as vice president to come in.
Why isn't that plausible?
Because Clarence already said it. So
no. Oh, I thought you were talking to him. No, it's not. I mean, in a way, I think that's a thought that he should consider.
What will you tell the both leaders?
I think for me, for either of them, first, if I had the opportunity to talk to President Boakai, I will, I don't think I have anything good to say to him, because I don't think, first of all, in the first place, he should have been president. I wholeheartedly believe that. And
bad luck. He's president now, so that's the bad news for you. He's president now. So what will you tell him?
I will maybe advise him to go back to, I think Gibson said is what he was thinking when he came out with that slogan, "Think Liberia, Love Liberia," right? And the reason why is I want him to, maybe there was some level of excitement, vision, be it theoretical or practical, that he had for the country that maybe got lost during the political campaign. Go back. Like, if you do a tough job, whether as a president or anybody, right? There are things about that job that are so difficult that keeps you up at night. That sometimes when you wake up in the night, you think about it. The question I will ask him is, what about Liberia that you see right now, either right now or the future, that keeps you up at night? That you worried about, that every time you go to sleep, you think about? Is it the future of the self-actualization of the citizens, or is it the image of the country that you would like to see? That would be my first question to him. The second question is, regardless of who voted for you, I don't care this was your father who voted for you and elected you to be president, you are not mandatory to put that person in position. Put people in position who can do the job, right? That would be my advice to him. As far as Weah, I think, for me, my advice would be, you lived out the rest of your life. In as much that I think you're still young to be president, we have seen what you're capable of, what you can do. And for what we've seen so far, I don't think you offer anything for the future of where this country is and where we think it needs to be. I don't think you have anything great to offer that country. So I will, agree with Mr. Pearson here that find somebody that you think has a better vision and team up with that person and help them, take the country where it needs to be. But personally, from a leadership standpoint, or your ideas and be it for the country, or even what people believe that you had this country at heart, you really cared about it, we have seen it that the reality is not true. So team up with someone who has a better vision and make sure that they win. Simple as that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Between the Headlines. We are discussing, is President Boakai the change he promised? Ex-President Weah does not think so. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take some calls.
Our country, sweet Mandela, our country, that God gave all this country.
Liberian, God gave us this country.
Indeed, God gave us this country, fellow Liberians. At this time, let me bring in one caller, and that's Eric Jensen. Eric, you're live. Go ahead. Caller, are you there, Eric?
Yep.
Go ahead. You're live.
Okay, thanks, Dennis, for putting me to come. And I think I would like to appreciate the. Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Well, thanks, Dennis, for putting me to come. It's Eric Jensen and the panelists on the show right now.
Eric, just
so
turn.
my
Just
attention actually is going to the budget, and I think the discussion went well, but I think some of the panelists are like creating a way for some of the answers you wanted from them, Dennis. But however,
no, the answer to my question
the
government,
whether they are doing well. I think my attention is actually concerning the budget area. They are not being performing well, or they are not actually proceeding correctly. Concerning right now, as we see, the budget has not been made public to everybody, especially to be able to critique it, to see whether some of the hidden land are there. And the other day I spoke about this. I think it got to do with the executives and the legislatures, the game they are playing, because everybody's trying to maybe put in action into the budget that they can follow up to collect something from there. And we think that that's one of the key areas Boakai need to really focus on. Until this time, you will get to know that Papa Kole was on the program, the one the legislatures, joining Rangway, I think, the Kuluba, raising issues about the house being audited. By this time, as long as we cannot get some of these things happening, we definitely have a big challenge, an uphill battle to see the legislatures, the executive struggling on to put in action into the budget so that they can just run and get it answered, because that is one of our biggest challenges. The whole procurement process, from the budget to the procurement area, this is where our major problem lies when it comes to the entire correction. For example, the house right now, what they're doing, I was told that they have a new department being created just to accommodate people to make sure that this budget line that they are now maybe replacing some of the hidden budget line can later on be actualized. If you have health department at the legislature, who are those people that are going to be attending to? You have project implementation unit or department in the same legislature.
Hold on, Eric.
We have list.
Eric.
Who is implementing the legislature supported project?
Eric, hold on.
Creating new department within it, in the legislatures, just to make sure that funding that will be allocated will then be transferred to these people. So we think that there are a lot of things to be done. What I need to do work. But also need to place on the president alone, because we have a lot of technocrats that are there. Some of them are not doing much to help this government. I think I heard one of the panelists representing water and sewer.
Eric, can you hear me?
I think one or two other agencies. But that's not just all. We think more needs to be done. Across the board. It's not just one or two agencies. So I'll just like to say the budget era, transparency, if we really want to push it, we have to make sure that the two group of people need to make sure they take their hands off. Let them do the audit of the house. Let us see what happened from the Weah to current. Even the Senate Pro Tem was chairman on the Ways and Means, and now she's Senate Pro Tem. If she did perform well, I think right now she needs that one thing.
Thank you.
All advocate for the audit to be conducted, which will expose or maybe bring to light key, issues that we think all Liberians need to know of.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for the show.
Thank you. Gentlemen, can you hear me?
Any other caller?
No, that's all the callers we have. I'm having some technical issues here. So we will go around the room for your closing. Gabriel, you start.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I think there's maybe one thing I want to hone in on this closing. I think this was a great discussion. I think all of us kept singing the same song in a one direction or another. Um, I think there is still meat left on the bone to chew on, for this administration, if they can, take a break, step back, and assess what is happening. Um, However, if they don't change direction from what is currently at the pace that we're currently going right now, I before this year, and I see protests, somewhere in the country. I would see maybe a lot of voices in the opposition, calling on them about the missteps that they are taking. But I think there is still opportunity left for this country. I mean, for this administration, if the president can really step back and really tap into this experience that we've heard about, the 40 years experience. And people keep talking about technocrats in the administration. If you can really dig deep in those technocrats, supposedly, I hope these are not degree people that have degrees and just call themselves work, ready to roll up their sleeves and put their head down and work. If he can do that, step back and really reassess and reach and shift things around, maybe he can salvage himself from the direction that they're currently going. But if not, I think we're going to see more of Weah and more people in the opposition calling on the mistakes. And more importantly, you're going to hear more from the citizen in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go with Clarence and then Bill and then Jimmy will have the last one. Clarence, you go ahead.
Thank you, Dennis. I think Alexander Cummings is the best bet for Liberia for a better future, and I think this administration provided George Weah the enticement. They have given him opportunity, and he has the means, and it's an opportunity for him to score political capital. And having an opposition in any political space, democratic space, is good for the country. And so I don't fault President Weah for seizing the opportunity provided him by President Boakai. And I would just want to caution President Boakai that leadership is lacking. We've said this over and over. And he needs to either step up or step down and give Jeremiah Kuhn the opportunity to serve the country so we can get the country going, because we don't have the luxury of time to keep dragging this country in the mud and not making any progress. I would say either the papi have to step up or let him give Jeremiah Kuhn a chance. We need a captain on this boat, and right now the boat is sitting without a captain. All right, and everybody calling the shots, and that's not good for our country. And then I just want to say to all the people who suffer the flood situation in Liberia, just since I have the opportunity, I want to say I'm so sorry. Our hearts go out to you all out there. Some of you were already started helping in the legal way we can, and we pray that the government and even government to come and look to a long-term solution for that flood disaster in Liberia by building drainages in our various counties instead of going out there to build campuses for Ghana that have $19 billion budget 2023 and even more for 2024. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Gibson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ja, for adding me to the conversation. It's always great to hear others' perspectives. This conversation was very enlightening. I would say, based off of the topic we discussed, I think there has not been much change that has taken place. I think we can all agree on that. For someone who had 40 plus years of experience, we expected a bit more farsightedness, a bit more different thinking, not a lot of innovation.
25 years, not 40. That's why his supporters say.
Yeah, so-called 25 years, allegedly. But I think there should have been a bit more done, right, when it comes to the change that he was toting and all these ideas he said he had. It would have been reflected within the cabinet. So I think there's a lot of things that could have been done differently. Liberia's problem, age-old problem, approaching 177 years, has been people thinking about themselves. Their greed has always been front and center. You've had so many yes men surrounding the presidency, surrounding people who were supposed to be quote unquote leaders, and nobody is thinking about the people. I have read somewhere in some history book regarding Liberia, somewhere in the legislature, I think on one of the benches or something in the chamber hall for the joint chamber sessions, there's a inscription on one of the benches that says, "Remember, my children, think always of the people." I think from the legislature to the executive to the judiciary, they have lost sight of the importance of them being leaders and what it truly means to be a leader of a nation, to be a change agent, to be the voice of the voiceless. You have to put your own greed aside and focus on what the people need. You've been elected to do a job. You must do it right. And if you cannot do it right, get out of the way and allow someone else the chance to take that leadership on and do something different for Liberia. We need it. We're approaching 177 years. We do not have much to speak of. We are yet to be brought back to among the Committee of Nations to show that we are indeed that shining star in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Eastman for the last word.
Yes, Dennis, I really wish President Boakai would take the status quo to task. He would challenge the status quo. Strong nations are not built by giving senators money to do small projects. That is not how you reinforce and build a robust nation. You have to build institutions. The institutions will implement the changes that are required, not individuals. We're looking at it from the wrong point of view and thinking as an individual can do this. It's not the individual. It has to be an institution that is perpetual. Individuals die. Individuals have selfish interests, but the institution is in the interest of all. We need stable economy and growth. We need to build our industries. We need education and the investment in human capital. Take them to task and tell them that until we can build up these things, we're not going to be dividing our money around and giving people lavish salaries. And lastly, we have to have social cohesion and inclusiveness. Don't leave our best talents out of it, because they are the ones that are the impetus. They are the engine that push change, that push development. We have the ability, but we are not. The way we are using our resources is not strategic. We have to strategically use the little resources we have.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Thank you, gentlemen, for tonight. I want to thank our viewers, those who are watching now, and even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Till then, we close with the song that says, no matter where you come from, which part of Liberia you come from, what may be your socio-economic or political persuasion, we are all Liberians. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Have a good night, Dennis.
Liberia is our home.